All right, let's unlock some communication secrets today as we take a deep dive into How to Talk to Anyone by Leil Lowndes. It's packed with 92 techniques, and we'll explore how these little tricks can lead to big success. Plus, we always have a link to the full book in the description or a pinned comment.
What's great about this book is that it's super practical. Lowndes ditches the theory and goes straight for actionable advice.
Exactly. Let's say you're at a networking event, a job interview, or even a first date, and you want to make a killer first impression. What do people notice first?
Before you even say a word, people are already forming opinions about you based on how you present yourself. You know your appearance and body language.
Yeah. Lowndes even talks about how she used to observe people's personalities through caricatures.
It's interesting.
It's crazy how much you can tell about someone just from the way they stand or the expression on their face.
Yeah, and there's actually a lot of research on this. People unconsciously react to visual cues like posture, eye contact, and even really subtle facial expressions.
So by understanding those reactions, we can kind of hack the system.
Right.
And use it to our advantage.
Like take the hang by your teeth technique, for example.
Okay, I'm intrigued. What is that?
Okay, so picture this. You're walking through a doorway and there's an imaginary leather bit hanging from it. You reach up and gently bite down on it.
Okay.
What happens to your posture?
I guess you instantly straighten your spine and lift your head.
Exactly.
Like an instant confidence boost.
And people pick up on that. Good posture just naturally conveys confidence and competence.
That's brilliant. I'm going to try that. Okay, so we've talked about first impressions. But what about the dreaded small talk? I think everyone gets a little nervous when they're stuck chatting with someone they barely know.
Oh, absolutely. Even the smoothest talkers can struggle with small talk. But Lowndes makes a great point. It's less about finding the perfect topic and more about creating a connection.
So make the other person feel comfortable. She has this hilarious story about being in a really slow elevator with a bunch of Mensa members. You know, the super smart folks?
Yeah.
Everyone was just dying of boredom until one guy started passionately explaining the technical reasons for the delay.
That's so funny.
Right? But it actually made everyone poke up and start chatting.
It's a perfect example of what she calls prosaic with passion. You can make any topic interesting if you bring enthusiasm to it.
I love that. So it's not about what you say, but how you say it.
Exactly.
Okay, so what if you're at a party and just can't seem to strike up a conversation?
Lowndes has some clever tricks for that, too. One of my favorites is always wear a what's it.
A what's it?
It's basically anything eye-catching or unique about your appearance, like a piece of jewelry, a cool gadget, or a quirky hat.
Ah, so it's like a built-in conversation starter.
Exactly. People will naturally be curious and want to ask you about it.
That's smart. I've also heard of the eavesdrop-in technique.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
It's not about being nosy, but about being observant and finding natural ways to join conversations.
So say you overhear a group discussing something you're interested in.
You can use a relevant word or phrase to politely enter the conversation.
Like, excuse me, I couldn't help but overhear you talking about sustainable living. I'm really passionate about that. Would you mind if I joined in?
Exactly.
It's a smooth way to connect with people who share your interests.
Right. And once you're in a conversation, avoid those one-word answers. Instead, use the never the naked city technique.
What's that?
Don't just state the bare minimum. Add a little detail or anecdote to spark further conversation.
So if someone asks where you're from, don't just say Chicago.
Right.
Say, I'm from Chicago, the home of the deep dish pizza. Or I'm from Chicago, where the architecture is amazing.
Exactly. You're giving people something to latch onto and keep the conversation flowing.
I like it. It's all about finding those little hooks that draw people in.
Now, once you've got a conversation going, how do you build a real connection?
That's the key, right?
Lowndes says finding common ground is essential.
But how do you do that with someone you barely know?
One technique she suggests is echoing. It's about subtly mirroring the other person's language and terminology.
I've noticed that people tend to warm up to you when you speak their language, so to speak.
It creates a sense of we're on the same wavelength. Lowndes actually tells a funny story about using the word cabin instead of chalet while talking to a skier. It created this awkward disconnect.
I'll bet.
It shows how even small word choices can impact how you connect with someone.
Yeah, that makes sense. So pay attention to the words people use and try to incorporate them into your own vocabulary.
Exactly.
To expand your conversational horizons, Lowndes recommends this really cool concept called scramble therapy. And just a reminder, you can find a link to the full book in the description or a pinned comment.
Oh, I love scramble therapy. It's all about pushing yourself outside your comfort zone and trying new things.
So even if you only do it once, like taking a pottery class or going to a poetry slam.
It exposes you to new ideas and experiences, which gives you more to talk about.
And you might discover hidden passions along the way.
It makes you a more interesting and well-rounded person.
I love that. Okay, let's move on to compliments. We all love receiving them, but giving genuine ones can be tricky.
Absolutely. There's a fine line between sincere praise and empty flattery.
Yeah, you don't want to come across as insincere.
Lowndes emphasizes the importance of authenticity. Flattery is all about trying to gain something, while praise is about genuinely acknowledging someone's qualities.
Okay, so how do we give compliments that really hit the mark?
Lowndes suggests using carrier pigeon kudos.
Carrier pigeon kudos. What's that?
It's a clever technique where you praise someone indirectly through a third party.
So instead of complimenting them directly, you tell someone close to them how impressed you are.
Exactly. It's less awkward for both parties, and it comes across as more authentic.
It's like a delightful little whisper that reaches them through the grapevine.
Yeah, and they still get the compliment, but it feels more genuine.
I like that. It's like you're planting a seed of appreciation without any strings attached.
Okay, now let's switch gears to one of the most important communication skills: listening.
Absolutely.
And I don't just mean passively hearing words. I mean truly engaging with what the other person is saying.
Reading between the lines and showing that you're present.
Exactly.
Lowndes has a lot to say about active listening.
She does. One technique she highlights is eyeball selling. Pay close attention to the micro expressions around someone's eyes.
So are they engaged? Are they skeptical?
You can adjust your approach based on what you're reading in their eyes.
It's like a secret window into their thoughts and feelings.
Another helpful technique is parroting. Just repeat the last few words someone has said.
It's like saying, "Tell me more," or "I'm with you."
Exactly. It shows you're paying attention and encourages them to elaborate.
You got great tips. But what about when we're on the phone? We lose all those nonverbal cues.
It's true. So much can get lost in translation over the phone.
How do we make sure our message comes across clearly?
Lowndes emphasizes the importance of matching the other person's energy and using vocal inflection.
So if they're upbeat and enthusiastic, you mirror that.
Right, and if they're more subdued, you adjust your tone accordingly.
I know I've definitely misjudged someone's personality over the phone before. Their voice just didn't match their actual demeanor.
It happens. She also recommends using talking gestures.
What does that mean?
Basically, you verbalize what you would normally express non-verbally.
So instead of nodding, you say, "I agree."
Exactly.
Or instead of smiling, you might chuckle or say, "That's great."
You're translating those visual cues into verbal ones.
I like that. Okay, let's imagine you're at a party and want to work the room like a pro.
Oh, that can be intimidating, especially if you're not naturally outgoing.
Yeah, any tips?
Lowndes suggests using a strategic approach. She calls it the 6-point party checklist.
Okay, what's on the checklist?
It covers who you want to meet, how you'll approach them, and even your body language.
So think about your goals and how you'll position yourself for success.
Exactly. For example, standing near a doorway is a good strategy because you'll naturally encounter people as they enter.
It's all about maximizing your opportunities for connection.
And remember to avoid those classic party blunders, like interrupting someone's story or dominating the conversation.
Right. No one likes a conversation hug.
One of Lowndes' most valuable tips is tracking.
Okay, I'm listening.
It's about remembering small details about people's lives, their kids' names, their hobbies, their recent accomplishments, and then weaving those details into your conversations.
It shows that you're paying attention and that you genuinely care.
It makes people feel valued and listened to.
It's those little things that make a big difference.
And if you have trouble remembering those details, Lowndes recommends creating a business card dossier.
What's that?
Just jot down those key details on the back of someone's business card so you can recall them later.
That's brilliant. I'm definitely going to try that. Okay, let's get real for a second. We all encounter difficult situations and people. How do we navigate those conversations gracefully and effectively?
Lowndes has some great advice for handling those tricky situations. One technique that stands out is see no bloopers, hear no bloopers.
What's that all about?
It's about having the social grace to overlook minor social blunders. A spilled drink, an awkward joke, those little moments we all cringe at.
So just let those things slide.
Exactly. It makes everyone feel more comfortable and at ease.
It's a sign of maturity and social intelligence.
And if someone's telling a great story and gets interrupted, you can use the lend a helping tongue technique.
I like that.
Just step in and help them get back on track.
It's a subtle act of kindness that goes a long way.
Speaking of kindness, Lowndes also emphasizes the importance of recognizing safe havens.
What are safe havens?
Those are times and places where it's not appropriate to discuss sensitive or controversial topics.
So like parties and dinner tables.
Exactly. Those are meant to be enjoyable social occasions, not battlegrounds for debate.
It's about reading the social cues and respecting the boundaries of the situation.
And when things do get heated, Lowndes suggests echoing the emo.
Okay, remind me what that is again.
You validate the person's emotions before addressing the facts.
So even if you don't agree with their perspective, you acknowledge how they're feeling.
It helps de-escalate the situation and creates more understanding atmosphere.
Okay, that makes sense. Now let's shift gears a bit and talk about expressing appreciation.
That's such an important part of communication.
It is, whether you're giving or receiving it.
Absolutely. Lowndes highlights the importance of recognizing what's in it for me, or YNFM, and what's in it for you, or Y of FM.
Especially when asking for favors.
Exactly. Make sure both parties benefit from the exchange.
It's about creating a win-win situation.
She even shares a story about a friend who failed to disclose the Y of FM when asking for a favor, and it ended up damaging their relationship.
It's a reminder that transparency is key. Now, on the flip side, expressing appreciation can really solidify relationships.
Absolutely.
Lowndes actually recommends writing complimentary letters to employees' supervisors to show your gratitude for exceptional service.
It's such a simple gesture, but it can make a big impact.
It makes the employee feel appreciated, and it lets their boss know they're doing a great job.
It's a win-win for everyone involved.
I love that.
Yeah.
And you know what? It goes beyond just getting good service. It's about creating a positive ripple effect in the world.
I agree.
When you acknowledge someone's efforts, it motivates them to keep exceeding expectations.
And it inspires others to do the same.
It's about spreading kindness and appreciation wherever you go.
I like that.
So those are some of the key takeaways from the first part of How to Talk to Anyone by Leil Lowndes. But we've only scratched the surface. There's so many more techniques to explore. And remember, we've got that link to the full book in the description or a pinned comment. Stay tuned for part 2, where we'll dive even deeper into the art of communication.
And you know those compliments that just feel off? Like they're more about the giver than the receiver?
Oh, yeah. Like when someone just says, "You look nice today." Okay, but what specifically?
Lowndes calls those plastic praise. They're like fake credit cards. They seem valuable, but they don't really mean anything.
So how do we give compliments that actually have an impact?
She suggests focusing on killer compliments. It's not about showering someone with praise. It's about finding that one truly unique and meaningful thing to compliment them on.
So it takes a little more thought and observation.
Exactly. You want to pinpoint a quality or characteristic that the person genuinely values about themselves, and then deliver the compliment with sincerity and specificity.
It's like you're acknowledging the essence of who they are.
Right. And Lowndes recommends saving killer compliments for special occasions and delivering them in private. That makes them even more impactful.
I like that. So what about those everyday compliments? You know, the little boosts we can give people we care about.
Those are itty-bitty boosters. Small, sincere acknowledgments of someone's efforts or qualities.
Like, "You handled that meeting like a pro," or "That color looks amazing on you."
Exactly. Little things that can brighten someone's day.
And then there's the tombstone game, which sounds a little morbid, but I'm curious.
It's actually a way to connect with loved ones on a deeper level. You ask them, what would you like engraved on your tombstone?
Wow.
It's essentially asking, what quality or accomplishment are you most proud of?
That's deep. It's like you're tapping into their core values.
And when the moment is right, you can weave their answer into a heartfelt compliment.
I can see how that would be incredibly meaningful.
Okay, let's shift gears and talk about phone communication.
It's so easy to misinterpret things over the phone.
It is. You lose all those nonverbal cues that help us understand tone and intention.
Absolutely.
Lowndes estimates that we lose about 30% of our energy level when communicating over the phone.
So we have to work harder to make sure our message gets across.
Exactly.
How do we do that?
She recommends using those talking gestures we discussed earlier.
So instead of nodding, you might say, "That's a great point."
Right.
Or instead of smiling, you might chuckle or say, "That's fantastic."
Exactly. It's about translating those visual cues into verbal ones.
And what about vocal inflection?
Oh, that's crucial. Try to inject enthusiasm and warmth into your voice. Even something as simple as smiling while you talk can make a difference.
You know what else I've found helpful? When answering the phone, wait until you hear who's calling before putting on that enthusiastic voice.
That's a great tip. It sounds way more genuine.
Lowndes also has advice for dealing with gatekeepers, like secretaries who screen calls.
Oh yeah, those can be tough.
Any secrets for getting past them?
She calls it the ho-hum caper.
Intriguing.
It's about projecting an air of familiarity, like you call this person all the time. So instead of formally asking for the person by name, just casually say, "Is he in?"
It's like you're an insider.
Right.
And for those important business calls, she recommends instant replay.
Which just means recording your conversation so you can listen back and analyze them later.
It's like having your own personal coach.
Hmm?
You can catch things you might have missed in the moment, like tone of voice, hesitation, or even specific word choices. Okay, let's talk about dealing with difficult people. Those interactions can be so draining.
They can be. But Lowndes has some strategies for handling those situations with grace.
Okay, I'm all ears.
One technique is echoing the emo, which we touched on earlier. You acknowledge the person's emotions before addressing the facts.
Even if you don't necessarily agree with the reason behind their emotions.
Right. It helps de-escalate things and opens the door for a more productive conversation.
And remember those safe havens we talked about?
Oh yeah, important.
Times and places where it's just not appropriate to bring up sensitive or controversial topics.
Like parties or dinner tables.
Exactly. Keep those conversations light and enjoyable.
Now, what about those truly toxic people? The ones who are intentionally hurtful or manipulative?
Those are the toughest to deal with.
Lowndes suggests leave an escape hatch.
What does that mean?
It's about giving the person a way to save face, even when you're calling them out on their behavior.
So you're not backing them into a corner. You're giving them an opportunity to back down gracefully.
It helps minimize defensiveness and allows for a smoother exit from a potentially explosive situation.
Okay, that makes sense. Now let's talk about those unsung heroes, the service personnel. Lowndes has some interesting tips on how to get exceptional service.
She does. It all starts with appreciation. She recommends writing buttercups.
Buttercups.
They're complimentary letters to an employee's supervisor.
I love that idea. It not only makes the employee feel good, but it also lets their boss know they're doing a great job.
Exactly. It's a small gesture that can make a big difference.
And it goes beyond just getting good service, right?
It does.
It's about creating a positive ripple effect.
When you acknowledge someone's efforts, it motivates them to keep exceeding expectations.
Okay, as we wrap up this part of our deep dive, let's touch on leadership.
Because communication is such a crucial part of leadership.
And absolutely.
Lowndes argues that leadership isn't just about holding a position of authority. It's about influencing others and inspiring them to take positive action.
So it's about being a role model.
Exactly.
Someone people want to follow.
One simple but powerful technique she suggests is lead the listeners.
Okay, tell me more.
Be the first to applaud or publicly commend someone you admire or agree with.
It's like you're saying, hey, I support this person and their ideas.
And it encourages others to do the same.
Now that's leadership.
And speaking of collective action, Lowndes introduces this interesting concept called the Great Scorecard in the Sky.
The Great Scorecard in the Sky.
It's an invisible scorecard that tracks the give and take in our relationships.
So it's about reciprocity.
Exactly. When we do something kind for someone, it naturally inclines them to reciprocate. It creates a cycle of goodwill.
It's a reminder that kindness and generosity have a ripple effect.
Lowndes concludes this section of the book with a powerful thought. Repeating an action makes a habit. Your habits create your character, and your character is your destiny.
Wow, that's profound. It's a reminder that even small changes in our communication habits can have a significant impact on our lives.
Absolutely. It's an invitation to be more mindful, more intentional, and more present in our interactions.
Wow, we've covered so much ground in this deep dive into how to talk to anyone. It's like a crash course in the art of connection.
And the best part is that Lowndes' approach is all about being authentic. You don't have to pretend to be someone you're not. It's about refining the skills you already have and adding some new tools to your toolbox.
So what were some of your favorite takeaways from the book?
Well, I really love the concept of scramble therapy. It's such a fun and effective way to expand your conversational horizons. By trying new things, even if it's just once, you gain valuable insights and experiences. You never know what hidden passions you might discover.
I'm with you on that one. I'm also a big fan of tracking. That simple act of remembering little details about people's lives makes such a big difference. It shows you're paying attention and that you genuinely care about what's important to them.
And don't forget about the power of a well-placed killer compliment. It's not about flattery. It's about recognizing something truly unique and meaningful about the other person. It's like you're shining a light on their best qualities and saying, I see you.
I love that. Lowndes' insights on first impressions were also really eye-opening. We all make those snap judgments, whether we realize it or not. And by understanding how those judgments are formed, we can take control of how we present ourselves.
Even something as simple as improving your posture can make you appear more confident and competent.
Yeah, those nonverbal cues speak volumes.
And once you do start speaking, remember to bring that prosaic with passion. It's amazing how much more engaging and memorable you become when you inject a little enthusiasm into your conversations.
I'm also really intrigued by anatomically correct empathizers.
Oh, that's a great technique. It's about tuning into your conversation partner's preferred mode of communication. Are they visual, auditory, or kinesthetic? By mirroring their language, you create a sense of alignment and understanding.
So if someone says, "I see what you mean," you might respond with, "I see your point too."
Exactly. It's a subtle but powerful way to strengthen the connection.
What's so inspiring about Lowndes' book is that it emphasizes that anyone can master these skills.
Absolutely.
It's not about being a natural-born charmer. It's about practice, observation, and a genuine desire to connect with others.
It's like learning a new language. The more you practice, the more fluent you become.
And the rewards are incredible.
Stronger relationships, greater influence, and a deeper sense of connection.
Before we wrap up, I want to remind everyone that we've just scratched the surface of how to talk to anyone. There are 92 techniques in total, and each one offers valuable insights into the art of communication. And don't forget, you can find a link to the full book in the description or a pinned comment.
I highly recommend checking it out.
And remember, even small changes in our communication style can have a big impact on our lives.
Be more mindful, be more intentional, and be more present in your interactions.
So go out there, experiment with these techniques, and see what happens. You might be surprised at the amazing connections you forge and the opportunities that open up when you become a more confident and effective communicator.
And most importantly, have fun with it. Communication should be enjoyable, not a chore.
That's a great point to end on. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into how to talk to anyone. Until next time, happy communicating.